yes, we can make the tax bill.
Okay.
Now, there's some discrepancy in the county that says whether or not, but I've spoken to a gentleman, I believe his name is Tom Crawford at the Revenue Department, not KDE, the Revenue Department itself. And the tax bills, the only really deadline out there is that the tax bills have to be mailed by October 1. So I have talked to the clerk, I've talked to Jeff Hicks, Wallace and I've had some discussions about it, but my sources from the Revenue Cabinet says that we can make the tax bill because the election right now, if she verified the petition tomorrow, 35 days means that the election would have to be September the 12th. It's the only date that meets the guideline to fall within 35 to 45 days. If she verifies it on Monday, then actually there's two dates, the 12th and the 19th. It has to be on a Tuesday because that's a normal election day in the state of Kentucky. So it's got a lot to do with when it's verified.
I had on Monday some people come and question me on if, we received gifts in January from the architect that worked on the recallable nickel and from you, that they're thinking that influenced our vote on the recallable nickel.
Only you all could answer that, but if you recall, the gifts that were given at that time was shirts that were given to you all, which evidently was a practice that was done before I got here. But if I recall correctly, did not all 5 board members pay for those?
Yeah, but we should have come back out and said that we had paid for them.
Okay, they were paid for.
Because you kind of said, you couldn't pay for them, and it was coming out of federal funding, and that was illegal.
Federal funding?
That's what you told us.
No, they weren't going to be paid for out of federal funding.
But now I turned this into the feds in 2012, that we were getting gifts. So it has been a long practice.
Yeah.
But it did influence my vote because of the architect.
I think, what did the architect give you all?
It had a mug, but it had on there to continue doing business with them on our next project. So they were
The
soliciting.
mug?
Yeah.
The mug said that?
Yeah, they had a card on it. They were soliciting us.
I didn't see the card. I didn't
They
read
had
it.
one in your office with the card on it for 2 months after that.
I didn't read it. You all get to decide when you do the RFPs right now. We've got an RFP for
Yeah,
architectural
we've got
services.
a major problem with that. So,
With the RFP? That's why we've got it on there tonight to discuss it. It was approved at the last board meeting. I brought it to you all to look at.
I'm just saying what
in
people are
terms of
telling us.
gifts,
It should have never happened.
Well,
That's
maybe
your
it
job.
shouldn't happen.
That's your job. We're not here responsible for what's on the agenda that comes to us. That's under yours.
No, the board chair actually sets the agenda if you'll read your board policy.
Correct.
Then it come back to the board chair.
Any board member can request through the board chair for items to be added to the
Yeah,
agenda.
I've requested that twice in the last month, and I can't get no calls back from you or nothing. I've got my emails and everything.
What you requested last month was, would have been needed to discuss in closed session. Closed session was on the agenda and you didn't show.
Because there was things I couldn't vote for in the agenda.
We could have discussed it.
I don't understand why you can't vote for something. You can vote yes or no on anything that you want to. You're elected by the
What are you talking about, not
constituents
vote?
in your district, so you can vote on any agenda item that's on there.
I thought there was some conflicts of interest.
What kinds of conflict of interest?
So we need to get that on. I'm getting the information from both state and federal authority.
Well, I wish the federal authorities would come forward. I'm tired of hearing about the federal authorities. I've been here for 2 years and I've done nothing but try to conduct business in a proper manner in this school district, and we need to move on from some of this stuff. The job of this board is to promote the mission and vision of this school district. And what we're doing is we're tearing this school district apart on petty items that are not even true. And when we go out here as anybody in this school district and we start spreading rumors that are not true, then all we're doing is taking away the ability for us to promote the vision of this school district. And if we'll ever get back to where we focus on the kids and quit focusing on the adults, that's when we'll start doing good things in this school district.
I'd love to see us focus on education.
And we have been for the entire 2 years I've been here. And that's the case. I mean, the bottom line is you all evaluate the superintendent every year. If you don't think that I'm doing the job in doing that, then you need to be here during the evaluation process. And if you don't think I'm doing a good job, then you've not been here either time for my evaluation. Neither time have you
I didn't
shown.
think it was, there was things there that I didn't agree with.
Well,
that
then
could
that's
be
what we
manipulated.
discuss it. That's what we discuss it. Your job as a board member is very simple, to evaluate the superintendent, to approve the bills and approve the budget. And that's pretty much where the jurisdiction and the ability of a board member lies. And it starts when the beginning of the meeting until the close of the meeting. And that's where it lies at. So if you have problems with my job performance, then you need to show up on the nights that we have an evaluation of the superintendent. It's not to be done on Facebook and in social media. Now, is there other questions about this item?
I'd like to make a comment before we vote in discussion. I've always been a fan of the people voting for a tax increase because I feel like that's a right. So I do support that part of it. I do have concerns about us paying for a special election. And I just want to go on record and say that's the thing I'm wavering in my mind. So.
Well, there is some information I want to share with you because I've tried to be very open in this process in terms of what this is going to cost the people, what the tax rate's going to be. So this is not in your packet because I did not receive this yesterday. This is the tax rates for this coming year. Let me just give this to you. So the press have one. We didn't have these when we went into one act. I don't know, was there any extras? Yeah. Anybody wanted? There's a couple of extras if anybody wants a copy. As we discussed, this vote, if you all do decide to vote on this tonight, it could be a vote that honestly doesn't have to happen if the petition is not verified. But if it is verified, then I want everybody to know the exact numbers, because as we sold the recallable nickel and we talked about what it would cost the public, then what we did is we used projected numbers. Well, we no longer have to use those projected numbers, and I want to share those with you. And if you'll turn to what says Report 1. And under Report 1, you will see that the compensating tax rate for this school district for this coming year is 45.5 cents. Our tax rate this past year was 45.4, if you all remember correctly. That is what we agreed on last year. So the compensating rate has actually went up, and that is because of a change in assessments. And if you will look at page to the right one. If you'll look at page, it's Report 3. At the top it says Report 3. And if you look down at this column right here, which is net assessment growth. that will tell you why the tax rate in Estill County has went up in terms of the compensating rate. And you'll see there in terms of real estate, there was actually an increase in the amount of real estate assessed of $3.1 million, $3,108,000. There was a decrease of almost $5 million in tangible property. Okay, that was one major company that is no longer in business. A majority of that, about 80% of that, belonged to that one particular tax bill. And then also in terms of real estate itself, it's showing a decrease of 143,000, and that comes about because of a change in exemptions, different reevaluations of property. So the net assessment growth, as you can see there, even though the amount of property went up, because of the change in tangibles, it caused the compensating rate to change. What does that mean for the nickel? Anytime your tax rates go up, the compensating rate goes up, it changes the equivalent. We had told everybody that the equivalent was 5.9 cents. Due to the reduction in the amount of taxable property in our school district, it is now 6.1 cents, and you can find that back on Report 1. If you go back to Report 1, if you go right down to this second line, right above the solid line down there, it says 6.1 cents of the total property rate shown above is required to produce the 5-cent equivalent. Okay? Now, just realize if you take the 45.5, 6.1 cents of that already goes into the building fund. That's what we're currently making our bonding with. So if the recallable nickel passes, let's say if the petition is found not valid, that means the recallable nickel is enacted. It's over with. Then you have a 6.1% increase or cent increase because of the recallable nickel. That is added to the 45.5. And if you add that 6.1 to the 45.5, I believe that is 51.6. When we did all of our programs and all of our presentations to public groups, at that time, it was estimated to be 51.3. So I want to make sure that those numbers, everybody now knows that we now have the verified tax rate. So that's what the tax rate now would equal. So it is actually 0.3 cents higher than what was discussed during that campaign. For clarification's sake and for letting everybody know, everybody needed to know that. So really right now we've got two options. One is that, or we got two things that can happen. One is that the petition is found not to be valid, will not be certified, and you do not have to do anything else. We will approve the tax rate at the August regular called meeting, and our tax rate would be 51.6 cents with the recallable nickel included. Again, if the petition is verified with enough signatures, then you all have to decide. I can't decide by myself. You all have to decide, do you want to go to election? You can make that decision tonight. If you do, postpone it. It's not a threat, it's just I'm letting you know. There is a possibility if you postpone it, you will have to have a second tax bill. Because if we take the full 10 days, by the time then they can set a public election, we will not be able to make the October 1 deadline. So that's basically where you're at. So the issue goes forward. Do you want to proceed and move forward? The next step would be an election if there's a valid petition. And I will make the recommended motion to this board that if the petition is validated and found and certified, that my recommendation is that we move forward and we hold the election and see what the public wants. We've said from day one, if the public can make this decision, they now have the ability to do it. And one other point, if you do move through with the election, as I've told you from day one, remember that if it fails and the nickel does not pass in the election for this coming year, the tax rate reverts. Let me find my paper. It reverts back to the 47.3 cents. Because by law, you have to take it is in the law that the 47.3 cents that the school district takes the 4%, that's a 4% increase. Part of that reason and justification is up until just a few years ago, in order to take the nickel, you had to take the 4%. You no longer have to do that. They have researched the law and said now you can take the compensating rate. That's why I'm saying it would be at 51.6. Because I think everybody on the board would agree, if we get the nickel, we don't want the 4% on top of that. We're not asking to be greedy here. We're just asking to do what needs to be done. I told you I can run the school district on the compensating rate.
If it passes though, the 4%'s not taxed.
4%'s not tacked on. It will be, if the election passes, it will be 51.6 cents. If the election fails, it will be 47.3 cents. Part of the reason for that is that 47.3 cents generates almost, we looked at it this morning, it's about $75,000, correct, Angie? That $75,000 pays for the election, so that it doesn't cost the school system anything out of their current budget based on the compensating rate. And that's one of the, I think, caveats that they sort of look at. I can't say that's for sure.
You said we could put this vote off, but I think we need to make a decision tonight, because I'm not crazy about paying for election, but I sure don't want to pay for another tax bill, because that's just more money out of our pockets. So we need to make a decision, good or bad, tonight, and get this thing over with. Because we don't need to add a tax bill on our expenses.
Well, my recommendation is to this board that if the petition is verified, that we move forward with the election and ask the county clerk or the judge executive to set the election at the appropriate date in September.
At this time, I'm prepared to make a motion that if the petition is verified, that we move forth with the special called election for the nickel tax.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, next on the agenda, we have a work session. I think first is the budget.
Angie, do you want to come on up?
This is general fund, budget. And I want to apologize for being so down there, we got this call here. Notice that, they're on the bottom. I have it, so, it's kind of difficult to read, and I apologize for that. Our, your actuals are on there, and those are not been audited yet, so that, the total with the last page property tax, we did up some because when you look at the last couple of years, we're never really sure about some of these things, and utility taxes and knowing you're not absolutely certain about. You can see this year we only got $626,000, FY16 we got $681,000. And part of that is just how it's collected and different companies like Netflix and all those, how those are paid to go in their cabinet, how well they collect them. Turn over to page 2, you can see the total revenue from local sources, a little over $3 million. Receipt, $10,742,000. And then based on their forecast, which that number can change too throughout the year. Probably won't know until late September or maybe even December what that number's gonna be if we get all the paperwork from Frankfurt.
Angie, did they decrease our six funding, or is that because of our drop?
Our drop in enrollment, seat funding for pupil has remained.
I assume that, I just wanted to verify.
If you move on down to page 3, the total revenue from state schools is $14 million. Right above that total though, you see on behalf payments, that's revenue of $3.7 million. It's budgeted exactly what FY16 expenditures were. And the total budgeted for expenditures is 3.7. That's the amount that the state pays on behalf of our employees for insurance and retirement. Medicaid reimbursement is $20,000. You can see indirect costs that we budgeted $80,000. You all voted, I think it was in March or April, to take indirect costs from food service. And on page 4, you can see our total receipts are $18,048,000. Our total revenues, which are receipts and beginning balance, is a little over $20 million. Do you all have any questions on the revenue side of?
Just to add a couple things, we did take into account the tax rate. Of course, now with the vote to move forward with an election, that $1,591,000 in general property tax is a more firm number.
We
with
didn't
that
have the
vote.
tax rates when we actually done this budget, so that can be adjusted too,
So,
before we approve it in September.
So that's not including the nickel, that's not
That's
including the
no.
nickel tax.
if the nickel, that's showing the 4%, okay? That's showing
That's an
the,
estimate based on last year's tax rate.
we didn't have the numbers
didn't
when
have
this
it.
budget was done last Monday. Like I said, we got that yesterday. So we just based it on the 4% just to have a number to go from.
And the nickel would not be put into the general fund if it happens.
Is the special election, if it goes that way, is that budgeted into this?
No, it does not show the nickel yet.
No, the money for a special election.
The money for the special election is in the budget under the expenditures. Yeah, the $30,000 is budgeted. The one thing that sort of always, the on behalf payments, I don't really like that. That's a new requirement. It makes it look like that there's $3.7 million that comes into this school district, but in actuality, it really doesn't come in. It's just on paper. You have the $3.7 million that comes in to pay the health insurance and all the different benefits that our employees have, and then it goes right back out. And the one thing, and then if you remember with your audit, the other thing that is always now makes your audit look awful is the fact that all the unfunded liability from your pension systems is now in your audit. But those were both new requirements in terms of showing those on behalf payments and everything. But we feel like from the revenue side, we are okay. It's not conservative, but it's not tight either. So, I mean, we have the ability. Last year, we actually saw a seat increase in December. Enrollment numbers right now are looking better than they did last year. As you know, last year we lost over 100 students. They're actually looking a little better for this year. We've still lost students, but not as many. And then, of course, I know Mr. Arthur's here. We're making a real big push at the first of the year on our attendance. If we show an increase in attendance during the first 2 months of the year, we always qualify for a growth factor. That can mean several $1,000s. So we're really focusing on that. But from the revenue side, I think it's not conservative, it's not out in left field, it's sort of middle of the road, pretty close to what we think will be the actual numbers as they come in.
On page 5, starts with expenditures, and down on the third line, you see 0280 on the that is totals back to that $3.7 million that Mr. Saylor's referring to. That money actually doesn't even come into the district. It's the health insurance that's paid for our employees, and when they see it or it comes to Estill County. The different categories, you can see the different functions and object codes.
Just one note before you go on, Angie, under 1,000 instruction, please note the change in the actuals on the salaries. You see last year it was $6.8 million. This year it's right at 6.5. That's about a $340,000 decrease. As you know, we did cut somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 to 10 positions. So that's why you're seeing a reduction. Also, it's for the board to decide at another time, not tonight. It's not part of the agenda tonight, but so you will know in this budget, there is a 1% pay raise in this budget for employees. It's not been approved by the board. Just want you to know that it's in there for all employees. Again, just so you'll know, that is general fund money. That has nothing to do with facility money. That's two different pots of money. That is our employees have not received a raise, I believe, this is the third year that they've not received a raise. It's totally up to you. It's in the budget. It's about $110,000 expenditure. Is that correct? So as you go down through there, just know that the money is there, and it will be at your discretion at the August meeting and September meeting. You have to approve the tentative budget, or the working budget, excuse me. You have to approve the working budget at the September meeting.
And these numbers will be refined as we find out more about Fund 2. We have some grants that still, we don't have the final numbers, so we calculate this budget column change a little bit.
Another example today, we found out that we had an employee that moved into another job position. The job that they're vacating is not being filled. That's a $30,000 savings in the budget that's not in here. So you're going to have some adjustments like that as we move forward. You know, we're going to be lean and mean when it comes to personnel. We couldn't have cut $1.3 million in the last 3 years if we'd not been. We've been good stewards of what we've been given. So we'll continue to do that where it's necessary. And I'll tell you who that is in the morning. You don't even know yet. I didn't know till this afternoon.
Okay, the different functions like instruction, student support. Instruction is anything related to the classroom. And in instruction, we do through all of our sick pay payments are in that